just trying to get a sense of next time when I go to speak, should I be more careful? Should I be less careful? You don't have to answer immediately, but if you want to write me at louise@gmail.com, I would appreciate compassionate and mindful suggestions. So,
if you do you feel like you're being more careful?
Oh yeah, that's not the story of my life.
So what would you do differently if you were being conscious of that?
I would sing. I was supposed to sing. I do sing, and for some reason I just felt like maybe I shouldn't sing, so I want to sing. I'm not really sure. I just know that I'm a very transparent person, and this is how I try to make dialogues around race and class privilege more productive. I've spent my whole life being careful because I grew up in a 97% white town. I went to Dartmouth College and covered all these white spaces. And I was always punished for actually having what I think scholarly questions about, like, why did the person call me the N-word the first day of school in 7th grade? Like, that was my day, because I was skinny little nigger. And like not ever being allowed to really talk about that in certain spaces. So I have this thing where, I'm scared because I'm risking certain things, my safety, or maybe a job, or risking grades. So, but at the same time, I also don't want to be judgmental and make audience members, whether like they're white or not vegan or not class privileged, like I don't want to make anyone necessarily feel like uncomfortable and not want to talk or ask questions. So I'm always kind of in this space where I'm navigating all these emotions, and everyone does that, and I'm trying to figure out what can I say to actually make a productive conversation out of this in a way that doesn't get people to shut down or feel like they're being attacked. At the same time, I see a lot of social injustices happening every day, and it feels like we have to talk about these. So I'm kind of looking for language and looking for ways to create mindful and compassionate dialogues that get people to think about these really hard ideas. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do.
Lucy, I think it doesn't have to do so much with what you say, it has to do with where they're at. And so if you do want to be careful, you need to, just making your best guess. Are they a white audience that thinks we're post-racial? Then they're going to be offended by everything, right? Are they a white audience that get that racial disparities exist and want to learn more about them? Then you'll probably have a really nice, productive conversation. But I think I think you're in this really kind of unenviable position of trying, kind of throwing a dart, right? You're like, okay, I think they're over there. I'm gonna construct my presentation as if the group, and of course they're not all the same person, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just think, there's a range of perspectives, and I'm not in any position to judge where this group might be. I don't know if there's any way you can kind of do some sleuthing before you get there.
Yeah, but assuming that anyone that comes to AK Press probably knows the books that are produced are incredible.
Oh, I don't mean this week. I mean you're allowed to this week.
Oh, I'm saying, sure, I've been talking online and being transparent with the person who invited me. Like, oh my God, I'm so scared. So, and she's been actually very compassionate about my panic attacks, my email panic attacks about what exactly do you think I can say? Because when I originally emailed them, they didn't think my title was appropriate, even though they had asked me to talk about whiteness. So I was emailed back and saying that we talked about it, and we think your title of a compassionate talk about normative whiteness and veganism may not work. It may be too intellectual for the audience. So I already knew that was putting language for the audience to run away because they don't want to talk about whiteness. So she sent me 4 other titles to choose from, and I wrote back and I said, but I don't understand, you asked me to talk about whiteness, and I want to be transparent, so I want my audience to know that I'm talking about whiteness and veganism. And then she wrote back, and I said, can I just take out the normative out? Because I think if I had talked about blackness, I don't think that would have been a problem. I think, but something about whiteness. And then she wrote back and said that, I was kind of embarrassed that I had to ask you that. And some people were kind of worried that the audience may not show up because of that. But that's true, we did ask you to come and talk about it. So I can see I'm not nervous. I'm not just nervous. She's nervous too, and the people there are nervous. So that's why I like the transparency. But I'm not the only one having anxiety to talk about, am I going to offend someone? They were also very, very worried, am I going to offend grades too?
I was curious if there are any outstanding suggestions in your book on how like communities of color and lower income communities could overcome some obstacles to veganism, because I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of people, I feel like lifestyles don't cater to veganism, you know, not everybody has access to it. And there's also, I feel like, a cultural, what's the word, like resistance to it. You know, you try to take meat out of my family, you just try it, and you know, so like, I don't understand. And then you take meat out of somebody's family where all you gotta put around them is like a corner store or something, and then try and tell them to eat something that they can't grow in their backyard because they're soy sauce, or they don't know how to do it.
So, to answer your question is that, I always say this to people, I grew up in an all-white rural New England area. And then most of my research has not really focused hands-on going to communities that cannot afford certain foods or grow them. And in the book, I actually, there's 23 other essays, but in my own essay, I actually say that, you know, I'm not the best person to talk to about this, but I give a list of organizations that are specifically trying to get folk the food that they need. So I don't know if people are familiar with Jason Harvey's Oakland Food Connection, but I list him as one of the people who are out in Oakland and are, he's a good resource to talk to about, you know. He's not necessarily, he does not do veganism, but he's a good resource to ask if you want certain foods, whole foods into your community and you can't afford it, you don't have the land to grow it. He's an excellent source. So I put him in there, I put the Food Empowerment Project. I admit to people that that's not my specialty yet. And I'm actually torn because I'm thinking to myself, I don't have a working class city background. So I don't know if I'm necessarily the right person to go and do that work. So I ask other readers to kind of go and connect with people who actually have that lived experience. Jason Harvey, I think, would be a good person if you want to email me, and other people I can send you emails and URLs to talk about that, because that is an issue. And so far, in the early stages of my dissertation work, my committee asked me, how are you going to operationalize class in this? Because a lot of what I'm reading that these women, most of these black women appear to be financially stable, not necessarily rich, but financially stable. And there are a few that do say that I do live in areas where I don't have access to the food I need. And then they decided on their own to create co-ops and kind of start their own mobilizing around those issues. But if you're interested, you can join the Sistah Vegan listserv. There's 200 women of African descent who are practicing veganism or trying to practice veganism from all different class backgrounds, talking about how to actually get these foods in there. So it's a great cyberspace to kind of put those questions out there and see what people are doing. There's a lot of people doing really amazing work. And I know trying to, like you're saying, telling your family to take meat out of their diets, you know, how to convince someone that it could be a good option for them. I mean, me personally, I've never proselytized veganism for everybody, and that's just me because I don't know enough of people's materialities to ever tell you that you should do a certain thing. So for me, veganism works for me, but I do know that it has been proven statistically that a more plant-based diet can eliminate health disparities, but I mean, that's statistics. You know, how do you actually get to the realities of culture and ethnic identity, certain lived realities that aren't, you know, real for particular communities.
Or even like biologies, right? Because who were those studies active on?
Yeah, that's what I asked about too. Is this is a conversation we're having in vegan of color right now, where you know, people are saying, you know, science has shown that a properly plant-based diet is applicable to all humans. And I'm like, well, that's a problem. How many times have we used science to verify that something works for everybody, even though it's based on the white middle class able-bodied experience? So those are the things I bring up. So I always want to be careful with someone using science saying that, you know, veganism has been proven to work for all humans have the same physiology. I always ask people to be careful with that. And we do talk about that. And the fact that there are people who, if they want to be vegan or have a plant-based diet, why it's hard for them for certain ailments or disabilities that they have, that they perceive they're unable to actually engage in veganism. Whether I know it's truth or not, I still want to respect that this person living with disabilities has had that problem of trying to integrate certain vegan